This is a 1993 Mazda RX7 that was featured in the blockbuster franchise The Fast and the Furious, appearing in the first two films. And today we're definitely raising the stakes and taking a close look. Now to do that, I had to phone a friend. And joining me now is Craig Lieberman, who was technical advisor for the first two films. Hey Craig, I really appreciate the time. Man, fill us in. How did you get connected to the Fast and Furious franchise, and what was your role during the production?
Well, real simple. I was at a car show. A guy came walking around my car, started asking me questions. And he said, we need some help making this movie called Redline. And since you seem to have your finger on the pulse of the tuner segment, maybe you can give us some advice. So I brought my car up there. They said, okay, great. We can take your car for the main car, but we're going to need help finding the other cars. So I went through the food chain of cars. You know, you look at NSX, GTRs, Supras, and then RX7s. And so forth, and other cars. So as a rival to the Eclipse, the RX7 was selected. That car was disposed of when they got chased by the cops, and we didn't see it again until Too Fast, Too Furious, where we recycled the cars because we're trying to save money. And so basically what we did was strip the paint off, strip the decals, change the body kit, change the wheels, and repurposed the car, basically recycled it for another character called Orange Julius. It was a real hard job because you have to remember all the cars at the car shows are these tribal graphics back those days. All the cars basically look like the same thing. You've got slashes or barbed wire and all the cars. So how do you make a fleet of cars that are going to blend in with those cars but look different? See, even a person who knows nothing about cars or graphics, you could tell all the movie cars in the first movie look different from all the background cars, right? Same thing with Too Fast, Too Furious. That was the mission.
Now, when it comes to some of the body modifications, Craig, what were some of the additions that were made?
As I recall, it was a Wings West body kit. You have to understand that at that period of time, there were a lot of companies that were Japanese companies, and Japanese companies are very slow to respond, and often, if they don't understand the purpose, they would just flat out say no. So while we solicit a lot of companies to participate to provide us product, even if we paid for it, a lot of them just didn't respond. You know, the first movie was worse because they were saying that this movie's called Redline, nobody knew what it was, and so a lot of companies just flat out said no, which they regretted. And then for Too Fast, Too Furious, a lot of companies said, oh yeah, we saw that movie, we saw those logos all over the screen, we want in. Some did, some didn't. So we picked what we could get that was in stock and that we could afford, or we can really create a relationship for basically in lieu of a licensing fee. They basically get sticker space on the car, right? And so that's their payment exposure.
And then where was the transformation taking place, Craig? Was all that done in Southern California?
Well, for the first movie, all of it took place in Southern California at Eddie Paul's shop in El Segundo. People like Tim Woods and that crew, those guys are basically building the cars. I'm ordering the parts, making the recommendations, and talking to the art department, the director, the producer, saying, this might work. What do you think of this? And we just have discussions, rule by committee kind of thing. And then for Too Fast, Too Furious, it was a completely different situation. It was all about color theory, what kind of colors they're going to use of cars in the film. And they didn't need to be modified because nobody was going to see under the hood. Nobody was really going to see anything inside the car except the gauges, which we changed, and we put white faces on them and that kind of stuff. That's all. I mean, the reason they don't make a car modification, if the car is not going to be shown on the inside like stereo stuff, then there's no point putting it in. It's just extra weight and extra labor. So, and we're not going to make the cars fast because the cars don't have to go fast. Most people will be surprised to know that the race scene that went down through Miami was never above 60 miles an hour.
Now, as Craig mentioned, the powertrain on this car was unmodified, and as such, underneath the hood, this 13B REW twin turbo is untouched, and in stock form here, producing around 255 horsepower and 216 pound-feet of torque from this 1.3 liters of displacement. Now, modifications in here are pretty limited. You've got extra gauging mounted on the dash, you've got race seats, LED lighting, and of course, you've got your nitrous controls. In the rear cargo area, you'll find a fuel cell Now, this was installed by the production crew not only for looks, but also for safety, given the fact that the vehicle was used for a variety of stunts. Since then, a stock fuel tank was reintroduced, greatly assisting in practicality. A huge thanks to Craig for the inside scoop, and for all the eager enthusiasts out there that are wanting to add it to their collection. They'll have their chance this May when it crosses the auction block at Dana Mecum's 36th Original Spring Classic. Despite the years since it appeared on the silver screen, this vehicle continues to inspire countless automotive enthusiasts and remains a special part of movie car history.